Hi, Alice. Here we are in our Edinburgh sale room in front of Jankel Adler's masterpiece, Peasant and His Wife. Seeing as we're in Scotland, I thought we might talk about this a little bit in terms of the Scottish context in which it was made, but also to talk about Jankel Adler himself and some of his background and why a Polish artist of his kind of reputation ended up making a picture like this in Scotland.
Sounds great. Jankel Adler is one of the leading figures in European modernism. He's born in Poland in 1895. He has an international training. He meets Otto Dix in Germany. He is colleagues with Paul Klee at Dusseldorf Art Academy. But in 1933, his work is declared degenerate by the Nazis. His work is confiscated from public collections, and he has no choice but to flee. And he moves over to Paris, where he meets Pablo Picasso. He spends a couple of years traveling, but returns to France 2 years before the outbreak of the Second World War.
Yeah, and I think we can see in the picture there's elements. This feels like a Bauhaus thing. It's, I think the influence of Klee is very heavy here. We've also got this sort of we're just talking about this texture. I think we probably think it's sand in the paint, but this idea of, I think this is Max Ernst and flottage, the idea that you rub a surface to create a ghostly image. So it's a kind of surrealist thing. So I feel that the picture's got lots of trends within European modernism that he would have picked up in those early years of the 20th century. He was in the Intarsierte Kunst exhibition, which at the time I think was the most popular exhibition in Germany ever.
Ironically.
Yeah, exactly. So it's kind of this kind of terrible idea that all these artists were just considered beyond the pale by the Nazi regime. And I think the reason why Adler ends up in the UK is part of a wider story, I think, of European artists leaving Europe and to escape the Nazis. And you get people like Piet Mondrian, Gropius, Moholy-Nagy. There's loads and loads of amazing artists who filter through England on the way, or England and Scotland on the way to go on to America. So this is why a great European artist like Adler ends up in Glasgow.
That's right. So he volunteers to join the Polish army and is actually evacuated from Dunkirk to the UK. And he is discharged in January 1941 and comes to Glasgow. And he has this short but really important period in Glasgow from 1941 to 1942. And that's when he paints Peasant and His Wife. And he has an incredible impact on the Glaswegian and Scottish art world of that time. So he is a Jewish artist, and through the Glaswegian Jewish community, he is welcomed into the city and into the community of artists as well through Benno Schatz, who was head of sculpture and ceramics at Glasgow School of Art, where Adler quite soon has a solo exhibition because, of course, by the time he arrives in Glasgow, he's already a leading figure in the European avant-garde. He's had exhibitions internationally. He's got works in public collections in Berlin and Lodz and Moscow and Tel Aviv. So he's this incredibly important artist arriving slap bang in the middle of Glasgow during the Second World War. But at a time when that art world had been galvanized by the arrival of the Scottish colorist John Duncan Ferguson and his dance pioneer partner Margaret Morris. And they've set up the new art club for discussion and exhibiting opportunities, and also the new Scottish group, which is an offshoot of the club for exhibiting members' work. So Adler gets involved with that. And also there's the centre set up by David Scott as a Bohemian sort of cafe and bookshop. And Ferguson and Adler become chair and vice chair of the centre, respectively. So, and also Adler's reunited with his fellow Polish Jewish emigre artist friend, Joseph Herman, whom he had met in Warsaw. So you get this sense of a really special, creative, international art scene in Glasgow at that period.
Yeah, and I think at the moment when obviously there's so much controversy politically around immigration, I think it's really important to remember, and this picture reminds us of this, that actually the emigre influence on modern British art, culture, sort of whether it's artists, gallerists, publishers, the British art scene in the 1940s would be nothing without the influence of all these European artists who are passing through the country. So this is a Glasgow picture. This was painted in Glasgow, and it's been in Glasgow all its life. So Adler, because of his poor upbringing and his British during the war, was always physically in not very good condition. And this picture he traded with a Glaswegian dentist. I think had really, really major dental work. And so this picture has actually never been sold, never been put in a selling exhibition. It's been in museum shows, but it was never offered. It was given away and has been in the same family ever since.
That's right. It's sort of Glasgow through and through, not only as a painting, but also in its provenance. So we're given in lieu of a dental bill to a Glaswegian dentist, and it's remained in the same private Glaswegian family collection ever since. Hasn't actually been shown in public for 40 years, but prior to that was included in several key exhibitions about Glasgow painting during the Second World War and of Jewish art, and major international touring exhibition of Adler's work. So the significance of this painting is really hard to exaggerate.
Yeah, it's kind of got it all, hasn't it? It's brilliant in of itself. It's important historically and in terms of modern British art, modern European art. And then also it's got this amazing story attached to it. I think for me, I sort of first got to know about Adler when I was looking at collections of modern British and saw him almost as a British artist because of his association with McBride, Colquhoun, John Minton, Keith Thorne, all those guys who were gathered around the studio that they had in London. He was the upstairs neighbour, wasn't he?
Yes, so he leaves Glasgow for Kirkcudbright, which is an artist colony in the southwest of Scotland, but then moves to London in 1943. And he ends up, I think he's the direct upstairs neighbour of the two Roberts, as we know them, and John Minton. And he is a wonderful role model and mentor for them. And I think he teaches them the technique of monotype, for example.
He's also in that group, you've also got Albach, young refugee, you've got Francis Bacon, Lucien Freud, they're all part of that milieu as well. And I think Adler's example as being a really, really uncompromising artist, somebody for whom the work is the most important thing, was hugely influential on that kind of group of young British artists who now form the core of what we consider to be modern British art.
And that's right, because he had known, he was friends with, he was colleagues with people like Dix, Klee, Picasso, these incredible European masters. And so the younger generation almost knelt at his feet for what he could teach them. And we see, I think the face of the peasant's wife here could almost be a quote from a work by Colquhoun. Adler's influence is that significant.
Yeah, and I think also you're seeing probably the seeds of what becomes known as neo-romanticism. The idea that you have something relatively nostalgic and sort of folkloric. These are two figures maybe from the Shtetl, where he, the sort of Jewish Polish village where he would have grown up. But then obviously you've got this quotation of, well, to me it looks like a Kandinsky in some way, like a 20s, 30s Kandinsky. So the mixing of the modern and the nostalgic, I think probably something that's a response to what's going on in the war, this idea of hopelessness and hope, tradition, modernity. So for me, it's a picture that also signals probably what's going to happen in British art, at least for the next 10 years or so. It's a major, major thing in of itself, but it's also just seems to pull in so many connections, which makes it such a wonderful thing to have in our sale.
Yeah, it's amazing to be standing here in front of it. It's such an imposing scale, such an ambitious work. And as I say, hasn't been seen in public for 40 years.
Yeah, so if you're watching this on film, please do come and see it at the Modern Made pre-sale exhibition at the end of April, because I think to be in front of it, get both the sense of its scale and also this fantastic surface, it's a physical experience that is best enjoyed in the flesh.